IB Nation, welcome back to the Upon Further Review podcast. We're a day late, but trust me, it is going to be worth it. We are going to break down the Notre Dame BYU game, Ryan. It took a while for them to get the film to us, but once they finally got to it, we were able to dive right in, and that's what we've kind of been spending our afternoon and evening doing. A lot of good stuff, Ryan, and not just good stuff like it's all good plays, but just a lot of good film, a lot of teaching film, some things I really liked, some things I felt better about after the game, some things I'm a little more concerned about after the game on one side of the ball. But I think that this team continues to progress on offense. I think that's a positive defensively. There's a lot of good mixed in with some individual plays of just and one position group in particular that's going to have to get better. So this was a quality opponent, quality win. There's some things that we're going to dive into, Ryan, and we're going to start off with the offense. So let's just kind of dive right in. I think the first thing that one of the things we do upon further review, Ryan, is just as we watch the film, what are some things we felt better about or maybe didn't feel as good about now that we've dove into the film? I was more impressed with the play of the offensive line after I watched the film, and it confirmed the breakdown confirmed what we said, which was the run scheme in the first half, the play calling from a run game standpoint, Ryan, in the first half, I didn't like. They were just running into some bad looks. They weren't doing things that I thought fit well. But even within that, boy, this offensive line really battled and got better movement on film than I thought they did live. That's something, and it was like 4 yards, 5 yards, 4 yards, 5 yards, 4 yards, 5 yards. And then eventually they were able to break a couple at the end. So I think that's a big thing for me, just across the board. Nobody played bad. The one thing I'll say is they got to stop pulling Josh Lugg as much as they did in the first half. That is not his game. It's not a surprise that the big play they had at the end of the game was Jarrett Patterson pulling, which is the only time I remember him pulling on that particular play. Every other time they ran it, it was to the left behind with Josh Lugg pulling. That's just not his game, man. But I thought across the board, everybody played well. Joe Alt is Joe Alt. I think Jarrett Patterson's really coming in comfortably and nicely at guard. He played another good game. I thought Zeke Correll played a really good game. One of the better games he's had at Notre Dame. Josh Lugg was solid. And, you said to me before the show, I agree with you. I thought this was probably Blake Fisher's most consistently dominant game, especially in the run game. So just as a whole, Ryan, I really liked what I saw from the offensive line in this game. And the pass pro was every bit as good as we thought it was Saturday night. But the run blocking is what I'm referring to here. The line as a whole, I thought played a lot better.
Yeah. I mean, Brian, the way you just quantified it, I think says it perfectly, right? The worst grade that you would give out is a solid player, right? Like it was a solid across the board, and there was moments of fantastic and dominance. Like that's what I kind of saw on film. I mean, we talked about it, right? When Joe Alt gets a little more physically mature from a strength perspective, kid's going to be a stud. I mean, not that he already isn't very good, but he's going to be an absolute stud. Blake Fisher, like you said, and I kind of talked about it a little after on the post-game show. It seemed like it was his best game, just kind of from a broadcast perspective. But I think that did kind of, I think it did kind of verify itself that he had a really good game. And then quietly, nobody's talking about this, Brian, because we only like to throw shade at him when he's not playing well. But last couple of games, man, Zeke Correll playing good football overall for Notre Dame, which is nice to see.
I don't like to throw shade at Zeke. I think maybe some of our chat do, but
others
like Zeke as a player.
like to throw shade.
Okay, gotcha. The thing about Joe Alt, I think what Ryan is saying there, and I agree with, is he's just still young, and he's especially going against BYU's older guys. He's just not able to move guys as much as maybe an older guy will. But he's in such good position. I'll tell you, Ryan, watching the run game, there was one play early. It was the play where Logan Diggs had to spin out of a back, and it was on the first scoring drive. He had to spin out in the backfield. There was a blown assignment. I don't know who it was. It came between the center and right guard. I don't know who was supposed to pick that up. I don't know what that mistake was. So it was a mistake. I just don't want to say who because I don't know who was supposed to block what. Outside of that, it was a really clean game up front. When they were missing blocks that were hurting the run game, it was on the perimeter. I thought the slot receiver blocking was really bad. I mean, just not good, to the point where there's a couple runs. Like there was a run by Chris Tyree that if Matt Salerno blocks the linebacker, and he should have, he was not hustling like he needed to. If he goes down and blocks the linebacker and get all he had to do was just kind of get in the guy's way. Chris Tyree bounces that sucker outside. That's where he wanted to go, and he's got it. He might score, but he just completely whiffs on it. The guy runs around, and he's got Tyree in space. There was a couple other times where I thought the slot receiver blocking was bad, and the tight end blocking was inconsistent. Michael Mayer did not have a good game blocking. Eli Raridan he struggled with his angles. There were just times where he was competing, Ryan, but he either didn't get enough width on an outside block, or he would go a little too narrow on a down block, which allows the guy to get over top of him. That's stuff that'll get cleaned up. But I thought slot receiver blocking and tight end blocking were the two issues in the run game. If those two spots would have been better, you could add probably another 30 or 40 rushing yards onto this total at the end of the game.
Yeah, no, I agree with you, Brian. I think football, especially offensively, is such a collaborative effort, especially from a blocking assignment perspective. So it's just when, you just need one person that isn't on the same page, and that kind of ruins the success as far as like the overarching success, right? So I agree. I think that the slot position, you got some productivity, in the passing game, but the blocking needs to get a whole lot better. Tight end blocking, man, is just not great right now. Like it's not. I mean, Eli Raridan's done some really good stuff, but just across the board, it just hasn't been good. So those are a couple spots that absolutely need to get
Ryan,
in the right direction.
If he doesn't have a good game, the tight end blocking is not good. I mean, that's just the reality of it. Is it's up to kind of Eli Raridan at this point in time. But I did want to show up sort of my favorite play of the game, and I thought just kind of when it all came together, there was a couple interesting things about this, Ryan. And first of all, the long run to Audric Estime. If you go watch it again, and I don't know if you can see this in the TV copy, but you go look at it, he really didn't get touched. Nobody on the other team touched him. He kind of ran into some of his own guys, but they did such a good job of keeping a body on a body. And then the nose guard tries to come off of Zeke Correll to get to him, and Zeke just plants him, just throws him down and plants him. And they really didn't touch him. They were trying to get through the blockers, but they couldn't get through. And then Audric just kind of bounces it out. And then my favorite play, however, and this is going to be the long run to Logan Diggs. I thought this was such a really, really well done play, and I want to just kind of draw it up. So this was a play, and I don't know if it was – we're still trying to determine if this is just duo with a wrap and like a kick, or if this is power O. And the footwork of the back is similar on those two runs, so I really can't tell, but it doesn't matter. It's a power-ish type of play, and I want to draw up kind of what happens here. So they're going to run – this is Logan Diggs right here. He's going to kind of come here and bounce this play out. This is where this thing goes. So here's what happens. They send Chris Tyree on a jet motion. Now what this jet motion did is this allowed there was a backer out here and a backer out here that you can't see on this screen, okay? And then what this motion does is it keeps this backer sort of frozen on the outside. And so he's kind of eyeing Chris Tyree like he has to. And so what happens here is on the backside of this play, so they're going to come, this play is going to go, this is play side right here, okay? So what happens is Zeke Correll's got a block back. He's got to secure the backside A-gap because Jarrett Patterson is coming around, okay? So Zeke's got to block back. And then Joe Walt's kind of got to do like a hinge block. He's got to make sure he protects the inside block, the inside gap. And then if there's nobody there, then he comes back out. It's a gap hinge block there. He's doing that. Then you've got a double team here between Blake Fisher and Josh Lugg. And basically they're working here to here. So Josh Lugg and Blake Fisher are going to work from this D tackle to this linebacker right here. That's their responsibility. And if he goes here, then Blake takes him, and then Josh comes off to the linebacker. If he goes here and this guy stays, then Blake drives, and then gets up to the linebacker. And that's actually what happens on this particular play. So what happens on this play is they both step with power here, which I really liked. And then this D tackle stayed on Josh Lugg. When this linebacker came off, Blake came off and drilled him and drove him down the field. So it was a very, very well done block there. And then what really makes this play happen, so Michael Mayer does a nice job of getting out here. This is one of the better blocks that he had. in the game. He goes out there and blocks the linebacker that's off the screen. You can't see that linebacker here. And Jarrett Patterson wraps around. He stays really tight, and he blocks this guy out. So he is on the kick out block. And what happens is you had a great seal back there by Zeke, so he did not let this nose get over. You had a great double team with movement, so they pushed these two guys out. And then so when Jarrett does the kick out, because of the movement that Blake Fisher and Josh Luck got here, it creates a more inside run lane. So the run lane here is not here to here. The run lane ends up being like here and here. And then that's what happens on this play. And then a safety comes down, and at that point in time, it's basically about, okay, it's up to you, Logan Diggs, to make a guy miss. And because they got such great movement here with this block, and because Jarrett Patterson did such a good job on his kick out, what it did is it was one of the few runs in the game, Ryan, where they were able to actually get the running back past the line of scrimmage without having to make a move. And so you get Logan Diggs with a full head of steam to the second level, and then once he got to the second level, he was able to make that safety miss. So it was an incredibly well-executed play, one of the better executed plays of the game. I thought schematically this made a lot of sense. They used motion to widen things out, and then by this point in time, the offensive line was just getting a push that we didn't see them getting a push on early in the game. So I thought that's really what opened this play up and why they were able to have so much success with this particular run, Ryan.
And it was nice to see a little decisiveness from Logan Diggs in this game, wasn't it, Brian? Like, it seemed like he was much more than the last couple. I mean, last game it was definitely heading in the right direction, but this game it just seemed like he was trusting what he saw and getting downhill, which was great to see, right? And I think that was kind of exemplified by that run. You know, there was no nonsense approach in that instance. It was get downhill, trust what you see, and explode the daylight. So it was a great play.
Well, and the other thing too, Ryan, is there were times, I mean, he had some misreads in the game. There's a couple times he bounces when he's not supposed to bounce, but the reality is because he was decisive, he was still able to make plays in those instances. So he wasn't late getting out to the bounce. You know, and that's all. Look, backs are going to make misreads. I mean, that's part of football, right? They're going to do that, and so you just have to say, hey, look, that's just the reality of it, right? You prepare yourself for it, and you're fine with it, and you deal with it, and it is what it is. But it's one of those things where, for the most part, I thought he was more decisive than he had been, and I thought he did a really good job of just getting through the line and just running with authority. It's almost kind of like I think Estime at times is a little, and Tyree at times get a little too out of control. Like Estime sometimes just bulls into the line and he doesn't really look. Like there was one time I thought he blew out Joe Alt's knee. He just kind of ran right in the back of his legs. And you're like, dude, you got to be a little bit more under control there. And at times in this game, Tyree got a little bit out of control, I thought, at times as well. And so, you know, you want to, got to be a little bit smarter there on those particular plays. So, Ryan, the next play I want to talk about Drew Pine's performance. And I thought when I watched the game on film, it was exactly what I thought about Drew's performance watching it live. And that is, he made huge growth from start 1 to start 3 in his comfort in the pocket, his trust of his teammates, because he is getting time. He wasn't feeling rushed. And when he was rushed, he did what he needed to do to buy time. There was the 1 3rd down conversion where he kind of scrambles to the left and then throws it back across to Michael Mayer, and who makes a great catch. I thought Drew's ball, the biggest thing for me, his timing was better. He was got 3rd down especially. I thought he did a great job of knowing where to go with the football. There are still some things that he has to get better at, which we'll talk about. And there was a few missed opportunities that we're going to talk about that really kept them from blowing BYU out. We'll talk about those. But his willingness to be aggressive as a thrower was there. And the other thing too is his ball placement was not a strength of his last year. Decisiveness was. When the 2 games we saw, he was very quick to decisions. He plays with a lot of confidence, plays a lot of poise. He's aggressive throwing the football. But what I did not like from him as much last year or in the spring was, and you saw this in the fall camp too, is his ball placement wasn't great. I thought in North Carolina his ball placement got a lot better, and in this game his ball placement was as good as it is. Now, what I mean by that is there was there was a third down throw early to Michael Mayer, and there's literally no one open in the traditional sense. I mean, BYU did a great job covering it up. So Drew just kind of takes a couple slide steps back and just throws the ball. It was kind of like the throw to North Carolina, just throws it high on a line, right? Don't float it, but on a line at about 8-9 feet, and Mayer just goes out and outplays the guy for the ball. There were a lot of throws like that where I felt like, boy, if he doesn't get that ball right where he got it, that play doesn't work. And so work to be done there, because he then missed on a Logan Diggs, missed his ball placement, was way off on the Logan Diggs route on third down on the first drive. But overall, one of the biggest things that I like from Drew is his ball placement has really taken a jump here in these last couple games, and we saw that against BYU.
Yep. Quick, decisive, and accurate so far. Like, that's how I would call the last two games, right? Like, I think that he, for me, was, just I think that, like I kind of talked with Logan, I think Drew really trusted with what he was seeing on the field, and he was putting the ball where he needed to put it, man. Like, that's the point number one for a quarterback. That's the biggest job. So that's kind of what exemplified it for me.
So just so everybody understands, we are having a little bit of a delay here with Ryan, so we're not quite sure why. So that's why the pauses are happening. It's not Ryan being in deep thought about how he wants to properly respond. It's just that we're having, for some reason, a little bit of an issue with StreamYard. So that's pretty much what's happening here. So I just wanted to make sure that everybody was aware of that. So Ryan, what we're going to do next is we are going to go to some of the throws that Drew Pine made that we really liked. And then we're going to go to some of the areas where he needs to get a lot better in this game. So the first thing I want to do is, this is the first touchdown pass from Drew Pine. And I want to kind of walk through why this play works. So first of all, you see Notre Dame is in a 13 personnel look. I loved this play call. And one of the things that I thought was better in this game, watching it after the fact, is I do believe Tommy Rees was conservative in this game. I thought a little bit too conservative, but I thought he did a much better job of mixing up the run pass out of the different personnel groupings in this game. And I thought, there was obviously some issues we had about, not using decoys better and maybe forcing the ball to Michael Mayer a little bit too much. But what I really liked was when he did draw up dropbacks, it was really well-designed stuff that I really liked. And you guys are going to see that in some of these plays. So this is the first touchdown pass to Michael Mayer. As you can see, they've got 4 D linemen here. And you've got, now this is kind of like one of their linebackers, right? Linebacker. Well, actually, one of these is the safety. I'm not quite sure which guy is the safety. This might have been him up there, but they're in a single high look. Okay. So because it's 13 personnel, Notre Dame gets them down to where now you've got basically 8 guys in the box. All right. And so what Notre Dame is running here is they're running a deep outcut with Eli Raridan, and then a little slide route here from Holden Stace, which is a high-low to the field, okay? So he could have gone to that. It wouldn't have been a great look. But what he does instead is he sees what they have backside. And what they have backside is Jaden Thomas is going to run a post route here right at the safety, and Michael Mayer is going to run a wide fade up the sideline. So what happens on this particular play is, because there's single high coverage, this is really the read that I think he needs to go with. Even if this cornerback runs with Mayer, let's say they do where they can hurt you is if you run that post, the safety takes the post and the corner stays and then opens up and runs with Mayer. All right, that's where BYU could hurt you schematically in this play. But even in that instance, you've got Michael Mayer up against a corner route or against a corner. I still like that matchup. Just throw it up and let him go get it. Okay, so what you see here from this particular play is Drew Pine gets his eyes right on the safety. You'll watch it and you watch it live. He just looks right at the safety, freezes the safety. Well, it's kind of not freezing him, but he's reading him. But he keeps his eyes on the safety. The safety stays on the post. So the safety just pedals here. Once Pine sees that pedal and he sees that this guy doesn't get off the hash at all, then he knows he's going to have a one-on-one outside. Now, I don't think he anticipated the fact that he was going to be not covered, but the one-on-one is where you should have gone. So Mayer gets free of this guy. This defender just kind of sits, doesn't run with him. The cornerback drops back and stays on the post. You ended up having 2 guys taking the post right there. And then Drew reads it perfectly. He sees the safety on top. He goes here on that route, throws it up, and Mayer catches the football. So I liked the pre-snap read. and I like the post-snap read on this particular play. I thought this really worked for Drew Pine. I thought this really worked for Notre Dame. So that was how Notre Dame kind of got their first touchdown pass, and I thought it just a really well-designed scheme. I like the fact that they did it out of 13. 13, for those who may not remember, is one running back, 3 tight ends. So you've got a running back right here, and then you've got Holden Stace right there, who's a tight end. You've got Eli Raridan right here, who's a tight end, and then Michael Mayer backside. So I thought this was a really well-designed play. I thought this was a really we saw multiple pass plays for Notre Dame out of the 13 personnel look, which I think made it really effective. I thought that we and actually I think I have what this play looked like post snap. So yeah, so let's bring this up post snap, and you'll get a chance to see what I'm referring to. So you see the deep route here by Raridan. You see Stace there. Okay, now you can see the safety is right here, so he doesn't get off the hash. And then this is the corner sticking with Jaden Thomas. Mayer keeps running, and this guy just kind of stops, and Mayer gets into the open spot here. So you can kind of see post-snap what this play looked like, and you can see why it worked for Notre Dame. So, again, really like the scheme there, really like the play design. I like the play call. And, they did a lot of things, too. One of the other things I liked about the pass game in this particular contest, too, everybody, was I thought that they did a really good job of throwing the ball in short yardage situations. I thought that was something where they were conservative with their game plan. Yes, they were. However, one thing that I did like about what they did is they mixed it up. Like, I thought they did a really nice job of kind of coming out and 2nd and 2 throwing the football, 3rd and 1 throwing the football, 3rd and 2 throwing the football, and making sure that BYU knew, like, hey, look, even if it's a running down, you can't just come out here and just cover us and, play the run, and we're going to be a run-heavy team and those type of things. I thought they did a really nice job of making sure that they stayed honest in this particular football game. So that was how that one works. So we're going to bring up the second touchdown pass here. I'm going to walk you through the second touchdown pass. This is the touchdown to Jaden Thomas in the first half. Now, again, this was a short yardage situation. So what Notre Dame is going to do here, they're going to run a concept that they've run a lot of. And again, Drew Pine sees pre-snap, he sees the look. So I believe that Drew determined pre-snap that he was going to throw the ball to Jaden Thomas. And that is at least he was going to look for that. And I think that was the correct read. So I want to just kind of walk you through how this particular play works and walk you through why this play worked well. So what happens here, so at the snap, you've got down here at the bottom, you got Lorenzo Styles. He's going to run a hitch route. And then Jaden Thomas is running a wide fade route here. Now, we've seen this play quite a bit this year. We saw it against Ohio State. We saw it against Marshall. We've seen it several times. And it's a play that is especially good if you can get a team in cover one. And basically that's what BYU is in here. Cover one means one deep guy here, and then you're in man-to-man everywhere else. This is clearly man coverage right here, okay? So what they're going to do is they're going to run that route there, and then Michael Mayer is going to run an option route here, and that's going to occupy the defense. So as soon as Drew comes off the ball, he looks at the safety, sees the safety that, again, does not get off the middle. And so Drew knows he's got a one-on-one. The safety eventually comes over, but he was late. He knows he's got a one-on-one, and he takes the shot. This is not a play, Ryan, where it's like, oh, wow, you did all these different routes and stuff like that. But it was an opportunity to say, hey, when you get in cover one, you read that safety. If the safety does this, then you know this is the look you want to get to. Drew saw it. He was decisive with it, and he got the ball out and gave Jaden Thomas a chance to go make a play. It wasn't the greatest ball in the world, but it doesn't always have to be. And that's the key. Jaden's got to do a little bit better job getting separation, but I thought that he made a great effort on the ball, something we haven't seen the receivers do a lot of so far this season.
Yeah, I mean, it was really nice to see. I mean, the effort thing is the biggest thing that you talk about, right? It's especially because, Brian, I mean, 2 weeks ago we were talking about, Logan Diggs was having a tough start to the season, and then he kind of has a game where you're like, okay, confidence builder, right? And Jaden Thomas needed one of those, and he had it in this one, right? Like, he played that football like he deserved to win that ball in the air, and that's what you want to see from a wide receiver core right now that is struggling to the finer points of play in the position, creating separation, working through contact, doing those things, right? And seeing Jaden Thomas make a play like that, is a really nice confidence boost for your wide receiver room because he's one of the guys that is going to keep playing, man. And you got to play through some of the struggles at times. And it was great to see him win a contested catch because he has the body to do it. So it was a nice sign to see.
Yeah. So the next play that we're going to draw up, Ryan, here is the third touchdown to Michael Mayer. And this is another play that I really liked, Ryan. I thought it was a really well-designed play. And honestly, there were two guys open on this play. I don't know if you saw this when you broke it open. If he wanted to go to Jaden Thomas, he had Jaden Thomas open in the middle of the field as well. And so something that happened before the snap is they actually had Michael Mayer was down here to start the snap. If you guys remember correctly, Mayer was actually in a 2-by-2 look to start, and then he went in motion. So this is the post motion look. Now, why does that matter? Because when they started that play, number one was right here. Okay. And so when Mayer went in motion, number one followed him across. What does that tell the quarterback? It's man. Okay, so that's what it tells me as I'm a quarterback is it's man coverage. So now it's like, okay, which look do I like best? So now that it's man, then basically what you're doing is you're saying, okay, which route do I like the best? Okay, so what they did here is Mayer runs a climb route. So I believe Styles ran a cross on this play, correct, Ryan? I'm trying to remember what. Yes, he ran a cross here, and then Mayer ran a climb route here. And then Jaden Thomas ran a deep in cut. So basically, Drew Pine's got to just read the safety again. And that's what I love about single high coverage. As a quarterback, if I'm getting cover one and I'm getting man with a single high safety, that's what I love to do. And I thought this was a really well-designed concept, Brian, because basically what is that safety going to do? You get Michael Mayer in a matchup against a guy that's about 6 feet tall, 6 feet 6'1" at the most. And then you've got Jaden Thomas working in the middle of the field. And then so what happened was then BYU triggers one of their linebackers, okay, which I thought I think this is the play where Audric Estime had a great blitz pickup on this particular play as well. I think this is the one where he had a great blitz pickup. So what happens is the safety stays deep. Well, that's where I was kind of coming from, Ryan, because the safety just kind of dropped into the end zone. He could have come back to Jaden Thomas as well. Jaden was wide open on that particular play too. If he didn't like the leverage let's say. So what happened was Mayer kind of got past the guy that was covering him. Let's say the guy would have undercut his route, and Drew didn't like the leverage that he had on that particular climb route. He could have easily come right back to Jaden Thomas right there. Like his eyes could have taken him right back to that. So schematically, I really like this. This is what we call is sort of a levels concept, right? It's a high-low concept, and it's a scheme that I really like. Braden Lindsey was taking the top off of the coverage out here. And you can get a one-on-one there if you like it, but it wasn't a great look for them. There were better looks here against man. So Ryan, I thought this was a really well-designed scheme. You gave him plenty of time to throw the football. I really, and obviously Drew Pine made a great throw on it. Michael Mayer did a great play. So this was another example of a really well-designed, well-executed play from the Notre Dame offense.
Well, I love levels, Brian. I mean, you have to think about it, right? If you're looking at it, you're trying to you're manipulating a defender or making them guess wrong, right? If they bite too far up, throw it behind him. If they stay too far back, you throw it in front of him. And that's what you saw here, right? Like you're manipulating that safety. The minute that he wasn't going to bite on the crosser from Michael Mayer, you knew that it was going to be wide open, right? Because you knew that Jaden Thomas was going to occupy that play in the middle of the field. And it's a really nice job by Drew Pine as well, being able to read that leverage, being able to read who's you're playing high or you're playing low, and finding an easy walk. It ends up being an easy walk-in touchdown at that point because it's just so well designed. And credit to Tommy Reese on this one, Brian. Love levels against single high coverage. You know what I mean? Like that's awesome. There's no passing off. There's nothing. Like that guy is just cut out to dry in a levels concept, and it is a no-win situation if you read it correctly.
And that was a puzzling thing in this game, Ryan, is they are not a good pass rushing team, yet they played a lot of man coverage for a team that doesn't get after the quarterback very well. And that's why Notre Dame guys, I mean, when they needed to play in the pass game, they were getting guys open. Even on plays where they missed, there were guys open. I mean, this is not meant to be a criticism of Drew Pine, more of a critique of what he can do and what this offense can. He should have about 350 yards passing in this game. I mean, there's some big missed opportunities in this game, some him and some not him. I mean, because the screen pass to Chris Tyree, that's on him. That's at least a 15, 20-yard gain, and we'll go over some of the other plays that he missed. But I was puzzled by what BYU did defensively. I really was. And they did a lot of linebacker blitzing. And there was a couple things that I thought Tom Reese did a really nice job of. And we have a play here. I'm trying to remember which play. I don't know if I brought it up, if I'm actually going to show it, but there was a play where they did a great job of using the running back motion to free up the middle of the field in order to get him going. And so actually, I think it is the play that we're going to bring up now that I think about it. No, you know what it was? It was the seam throw. It was the seam throw to Jaden Thomas is what it was. They did a great job. It was a 2x2. Jaden Thomas was in the slot. They did a great job of running the back out, which then kept that guy from running with Jaden Thomas up the backside seam. That's the play it was, because they ran a high-low to the right side, and they ran a post curl with a swing route to the left side, and then Jaden Thomas just kind of streaked right down the middle of the field and found the soft spot. And it was a really good use of, and it was a check swing too, Ryan. Like you could see he was looking, nobody came, and then he went outside. And what I liked about it too is that it was not a true play action. What teams will do sometimes is teams will run a play action, not so much to get a run fake, but to show up to get a back to a certain side pre-snap, but then get him to the other side with a scheme, with the blocking scheme. So that's what teams, sometimes say, why are they running like a play action look there on like 3rd and 11? Because that's how that's the protection they wanted to get into. And so this particular play wasn't a 3rd and 11, but what they did was they had the back to the right, and then you couldn't, you're going to react a certain way linebackers, Ryan, this, they're going to make a call on which side the back is lined up. Right. And usually when a back is to the right, he's going to, inside out, the Mike blitz to that side. But by doing a play action, they actually ended up going to like a slide away from it. So he can now check the opposite side, and they slid right into the blitzers and picked it up. And then when he saw the back from his side was coming, just swung out. And then that opened up the big play opportunity there. But the one we're going to draw up is the long pass to Lorenzo Styles. That I believe was made early in the game. Now, this is an instance, Ryan, where they are actually in a 2-high look. BYU is in a 2-high look, and we didn't see nearly enough of that, in my opinion. So on this particular play, you've got Lorenzo. I believe this is Lorenzo Styles. He's going to run a go route right here. Now, most likely you're not looking here because of the off coverage combined with the safety being outside the hash. Would you agree with that, Ryan? Like that's 100%. So now Lorenzo's job is just take the top off, right? Just clear out that side. Okay, so then what you're going to have underneath it is you're going to have Michael Mayer running a crossing route here, and then Lorenzo Styles is kind of coming in right behind him, and then you've got another post dig here by Jaden Thomas, and then this is actually one where they had a check slide, so they did the same thing. They had him opposite the side he was going to block, which I thought was really effective. And so by doing this crossing route, this is one of the few times I felt like they used Mayer in a way that allowed something else to get open, and Drew looked for it. This was open a couple other times, but Drew didn't look for it. So what happens here is one of these, I think this backer blitz, I think that I didn't mark it down. I should have marked it down. One of the backers blitz, and the other guy just kind of keyed on Mayer. And then that just opened up a big white hole here. So now this safety, if this safety plays it here, well, then you can kind of go to your one-on-one there, right? Or you'll most likely have, kind of look to the cross. But because that safety stayed back here to help protect with the vertical route, it really opened up. Actually, this was Styles. This was Braden Lindsay. Excuse me. Styles is right here. Styles, oops, that's a 0. Styles is right here. He was the number 2 guy. So he climbs and gets over top, Ryan, and it was one of 3 times that Notre Dame was able to get a cross-field climb. And this is a route that you and I talked a lot about the last 2 weeks, and Notre Dame was really able to finally hit it. It wasn't necessarily a backside seam. It looked more to me like a climb route. Jaden Thomas's early route was more of a seam. This was more of a climb route, similar to what we saw from Michael Mayer. And so it's really the same scheme that we saw earlier for the touchdown. Well, it actually came later. This play was before Mayer's 3rd touchdown. It's a similar scheme, but you're just getting to it differently. Whereas earlier you're getting to it with, Mayer is the number 3 and he runs the climb, and your mesh comes from here, right? And then so again, remember the play we drew up earlier? You had Mayer came here, Styles goes there, and then Jaden Thomas came here. Same concept. You're just getting to it with different players. And this is what we've talked about in the past is, it's about trying to find different ways to run similar concepts a lot of different ways. Well, here, this time they're running a clear here, And now you've got that kind of coming from the same side. So very similar concept, but a different way to do it. And it really worked extremely well. And then Drew read it. He had to show some patience. He had to show a willingness to say, hey, look, I'm going to let this go and then bang it right behind. And this was another play, Ryan, and it's true also of the pass he threw to Jay Thomas where his ball placement was good. If he leads Lorenzo out there, he leads him right into the safety. So this is another instance where I thought he did a really nice job of putting the ball where it needed to be. Because sometimes you'll see a guy throw a pass and you're like, why did he throw it like on him? Why didn't he lead the guy? Hey, do you need the cord? You say, why didn't he lead the guy? And then you're like, well, because if he led him, the guy gets drilled or gets picked off or the safety was there. I thought he did a really nice job of putting it right on the seam and throwing him into the open hole. I thought it was just a really good play by Drew Pine.
I think it's a really underrated thing for quarterbacks, Brian, and we talk about this a decent amount, but understanding how to we always hear about reading leverage, right? Reading where a player is in coherence to a wide receiver. Are they on the back hip? Are they in the front hip? Are they behind? Are they down low? But I don't think people really understand exactly why that's so important. And it's to your point, right? He understands that safety is still deep. It's coming from depth a little bit. So if I put it on him, that's going to give him the ability to catch, gather, and run instead of going directly into the safety. So I think that Drew Pine in this game, for me, just consistently, I thought he read leverage pretty well, and he threw to the proper leverage as well. Because I think you'll see a lot of quarterbacks, to your point, they'll throw to the wrong leverage a lot, and they'll throw the guy into coverage rather than letting him sit down in a open spot, to your point.
Ryan, I did actually bring that play up. And so I did save that play, and I didn't think I did. So this was the pass to Jaden Thomas that we talked about earlier. Similar concept, right? From what we talked, I just want to make sure I wrote this one down. So you have a deep out cut here by this receiver, and I think that was Deion Colsey or Tobias Merriweather. I can't remember. I think it was Deion Colsey. And then this is the play where you had the back going in a different direction. And so then what happens here is you have they checked the back, so they moved the back. Right. The play action was on the previous play. This was a different one. So Jaden Thomas is kind of running a seam route there. You have a post curl here. Oh, that's the ugliest post curl I've ever drawn in my life. You have a post curl here, and then the check swing there by Chris Tyree, which occupies this guy. And then one of these guys came. I'm trying to see. Yeah, the mic came here, right? And so then what happened was this route. These guys are playing these two. So you've got Mayer over here, right? So that's something that we were very critical of Tommy Rees not using Michael Mayer more as a decoy. And there were a couple plays that they should have done it. But what I saw when I broke the film down is there's a lot of times they use Michael Mayer formationally to then open things up in other instances. So what they're doing here is you're creating two things. Number one, if they don't play you correctly, then you've got Mayer on an outcut. Right. And he's just because this is Michael Mayer right here. So, this guy is running a deep out. He could win the one-on-one, but the way BYU is playing, that route's probably not going to be there, Ryan. I didn't think that route was really there a lot, especially a boundary throw. So then you've got Michael Mayer ISO'd, and he's got a quick out. You could throw it there. But what that does is that now look at how much is to the boundary now. Right? Look at all the guys that are focused on the boundary now. Right. And so now you've got a chance to get that behind. It was really well designed. BYU didn't play it great. Notre Dame was able to open it up, and it was another big play. This is another one where Drew Pine put that sucker right in the seam, like put it right on him and got it right on Jaden. He didn't try to throw it up and lead him into a hole. He put that thing right on him and let him catch it for a big gain. And this is one of the reasons why I really love Jaden Thomas in the slot. Like the touchdown pass, it was a great catch, but he was blanketed from a coverage standpoint. This is a great catch. This is the kind of stuff where he really gets open and really does a lot of damage. He could have easily had 130 yards receiving in this game if the reads would have taken him. Now, that's not a criticism of Drew Pine because one of them was the touchdown to Mayer that we just talked about. The read shouldn't have taken him to Jaden Thomas. My point was if the read would have taken him there, Jaden was open again. That's the point that I'm making. But this was another example, Ryan, of Drew just a well-designed scheme. And Drew just reading it out and getting the ball where it needs to get to. Because the thing about this play, Ryan, this was not his initial read. His initial read was the 2x2 into the boundary. Yep. That was his initial read. And then when that got covered and he saw the third guy, that brought him back to the seam, and he went right to it. And it was really, really well done.
Brian, the safety on that play, he was sitting on the post
Just
curl
stay deep.
there?
Yeah, no,
Just
he stayed
okay,
deep.
so he was
He
just
just
staying
pedaled
from
deep.
depth.
Yeah, he pedaled deep. Yeah.
Gotcha.
So, Braden Lindsay ran a lot of goes and posts in this game, and I think they would always have, usually when they would go cover one, that safety would be really like soft, like coverage wise. They did not want to give up the big play, which we saw it on film. But yeah, when they went single high, that safety stayed deep a lot, and Notre Dame took advantage of it a lot as well.
For sure.
So, and then there's one more play I want to get to here. That there's a couple plays here that we want to get to that were not so good, right? So we drew up a couple things that we really liked, a couple things that we didn't necessarily like as much. Some of them are just Drew making a bad decision, and some of them are Drew just not, just locking in on Michael Mayer. And so that's kind of what I want to kind of get to here. I'll show one example here of a play that we were talking about early in the game that I thought really was just a golden opportunity for a big play. This was the first third down of the game, Ryan. If you remember correctly, this is the one where Drew scrambles and gets outside, and it was a play that we saw them run quite a bit. It was the out, right? They had an out here. You had Mayer coming on across there, and look at these two guys, right? They were doubling up Michael Mayer, and Drew was just locked in on Mayer. If he reads this and sees that backer come up and jump Mayer, then he's got to know that is wide open. Wide open. Those are some of the young guy, third start of your career mistakes that he's going to make, that now it's on tape. Now you see it. Now next time when I see those two linebackers bracketing him with it was a too high look, and I see the safety pedaling, I got to know I'm coming right back to that play over the middle. Now, he missed it here, but he hit it two more times later. So it's not even necessarily about getting it on tape, Ryan. It's about he went back to it later in that game twice for big plays. And that's the kind of evolution you need to see from a quarterback. When a quarterback can make adjustments in game, that's really showing you that this is a kid that can take information, process it, make the correction, as opposed to needing to see it on film first. Then I don't make that same mistake next week. I thought that was an impressive thing to see this kind of miss. I mean, this is a big miss, right? I mean, You're pinned deep. You got a guy wide open. Jaden catches that. You're getting at least out past the 30-yard line. Now now you're cooking a little bit, right? He misses it, and they get stopped. That's the kind of mistake you can't have, right, in a big game. Like, it didn't hurt you against BYU, but you're not going to get a ton of opportunities to rip Clemson up or Georgia or Bama or teams like that. You've got to be able to hit those plays when they come. But then I'm also going to – so I can be critical there, but then say I love the fact that he went back to that same route later in the game, and it was there. And that's something that I really liked about his performance from this game.
Well, and the next step too, Brian, is outside of just being able to read, it's bracket, let's climb up to the next read a little bit. It's also the fact of like, hey, you're going to see on film that, the defense is going to see on film for next week that Michael Mayer was your guy, right? 11 catches out of 12 targets, right?
And
in the
10
game
looks at him a lot.
Yes. Yeah. And he does. Yeah. And next week though, when you're, playing the next opponent, they're going to kind of look and they're going to say, hey, we know 87's the guy, right? Like, that's where my attention needs to go to. And Drew needs to use that to his advantage, because now those brackets are going to come more and more often, because they're going to see that on film and say, that's Drew's guy. That's the safety blanket. That's where he's going to go when the going gets tough type of situation, right? The fact, though, that you have this type of outlook, I mean, because honestly, we had a ton of questions on the show earlier that were like, were any receivers open? I'm just like, yeah, there were, man. There were receivers open all day. This wasn't a 87 and nothing type of situation, right? Like, there were players open. So now Drew sees this, to your point, Brian. It's about maturation. It's about the next step. So these are all learning opportunities, right? These things are all fixable. The one thing that was great, I think, on both sides of the ball is most of the mistakes were mental mistakes, mistakes of just making an improper read, reacting a little slow. It's not a physical mistake, right? We know Drew can make that throw.
Right.
The fact that he
None
sees
of the
it now,
mistakes were his arm strength isn't good enough, or his height isn't good enough, or whatever the case may be. It was none of that. There's none
Yep.
of that. That's
Yep.
important. And this is another example because people have said, this play happened because he's only 6 feet tall. No, this play happened because he threw the ball where it shouldn't have gone. So this is the play. This is the interception that Notre Dame ran. You can see Notre Dame again is in a 12 personnel look. So you have a wide receiver here, right? Wide receiver there, wide receiver there, and then you've got Holden Stace here as a tight end, and then Michael Mayer there. Okay. Now this is another time where this is what hurt them on this particular play is he locked in on on Michael Mayer. So you get a runoff here by this guy, which takes the safety and the corner out. Your read here is this. So you're running a slide route with Holden Stace. It was more of Ryan, probably more of an arrow, right? That I kind of more of an arrow than a slide, I would say there. Sort of an arrow route where he's just kind of coming right here. And then you've got an option route by Michael Mayer. Now, the option route is essentially Mayer is going to leverage this guy. Okay, so Mayer's working off of this guy. If this guy plays him inside, he works out. And then Drew's eyes have got to tell him from here to here based off reading that guy. So his read key, I should probably show this to begin. His read key, in my opinion, on this particular throw is here. Now, the reason it's here is because this route is done. Okay, cover 2, this particular route, this guy is this far off the hash. They've got that particular route covered. Okay, you could do a hole throw maybe backed up, Ryan, but I don't know if I love a hole throw at the 26-yard line far hash, right? So that plays out. Now, maybe if Trevor Lawrence is their quarterback or CJ Stroud is their quarterback, maybe there aren't many quarterbacks can make that throw, nor should you try to make that throw based on the pre-snap alignment. So they run that off here. So now your read is the flat defender, okay, or the hook curl guy, depending on what your route is. Okay, so depending on what the coverage is. So at the snap of the ball, you get an arrow route here, and then Mayer's working the option here. Now what happens is this guy sticks on Mayer and this guy sticks on Mayer. No, actually, this guy comes. And then now Mayer, the reason Mayer goes inside is because when he releases, he sees this guy come and this guy's eyeing him. So Mayer works inside. This guy comes back in. That's the guy that we thought would have picked it off anyway, even if Drew doesn't get the ball tipped. And what you'll find is, Ryan, at the snap of the ball, the cornerback open and ran there, and Holden Stace is wide open on a slide. Yep. Now, what this is a quarterback making his third start in a pressure-packed moment saying, I'm going to my dude. And sometimes that's okay. But in this particular route, like that's okay if you're running a wide fade and you know you're getting a one-on-one. I don't care how close he's covered. You throw the ball to 87. On this type of concept, though, Ryan, where you're basically running your option. I mean, it's Y option. It's all it is, right? This is a play's been around since I was playing football, right? It's just Y option, right? It's a good scheme in a short yardage situation. And instead, this is not one where you can just say, I'm throwing it to my dude. This is not the area you want to do that, in my opinion. So this is a mental mistake. It costs them big, right? These are not the mistakes that you can make. However, again, as we said, now it's on film. Now you see it. Now you learn, you know what? This is why I can't just lock in on 87 no matter what. But this was another one of the missed opportunities that I thought we saw in this particular game, right?
Well, and I agree completely with the simple start of, hey, that Sam Backer or that Rover, whatever that position is in their defense, right? Like that's the guy that you're reading on display. The minute that guy occupies Mayer and forces him back inside, Brian, my thought process is my eyes are now going to the Mike linebacker. And like you said, even if he blitzes, my next thought process, and this happens in like bang, 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 right? But when I see a Mike linebacker blitzing, my mind goes, they're not going to leave the middle of the field wide open. There's going to be somebody to replace him. Where's that replacement going to come from? That replacement comes from that backside linebacker being able to come over. So if it's read properly, I mean, honestly, as soon as I see that Mayer's got inside, as soon as that linebacker or that Rover, whatever he is, just kind of lets him take him inside and lets him take the inside leverage, my mind has to go like, that guy guessed wrong. I'm going to guess right now, right? Like that guy made a mistake because this is how offense works. You're usually in this type of situation, wherever the defender doesn't go, that's where I throw. Like it's just easy, man. Like you make the defender guess wrong. On this play, he's clearly eyeing Mayer up, hit the little arrow route or the flat route, whatever you want to call that thing, to Holden Stace. It's easy. It's like taking money at that point.
Yep. For me, the way that I'm teaching this, Ryan, in this particular look is I'm reading this guy for this is my 1, this is my 2. Now, the only thing that would have taken that away is if at the snap of the ball, this guy goes here and that cornerback's squatting. Now you're in a bit of a predicament. Right now you're like, okay, that's the ideal coverage against this, right? So an ideal coverage against Y option in this particular instance is to bracket Mayer on the option, which they did, and then have the corner squat, which they did not do. Now, so either this guy or this guy made a mistake. I think it was the corner, because I don't think they're blitzing that guy and then leaving Mayer to do all this stuff here with no help. I don't think that's what they were going to do. So that's what Drew's got to see. He's got to get that ball out there. Again, it's one of the correctable things, to your point, Ryan. I think that was a great point you made. It was a correctable thing that he's going to have to correct, but we saw him make corrections in the game. And I think that's the thing that I was really impressed with when I saw it, because, when we're breaking it down, I'm like, man, you can't miss this. You can't miss this. That's a bad read. But then you see him get that opportunity later, and he reads it well and gets the ball out for Lorenzo, gets the ball out to Jaden. And the one to Lorenzo, was it the one to Lorenzo, the one to Jaden, where the window wasn't really that big? I mean, he had to put that thing out on the line. The one, and that was later in the game. That was later in the game. So he had to put, I mean, it wasn't like a really, really tight window, but it was like he had to get that thing on him. And those are the things that you really like to see from your quarterback in a game like this, Ryan. No doubt about it.
No, it was real. I mean, again, we're nitpicking a couple throws in a game that I thought Drew Pine played really well, man. For the second straight game, I thought he did a lot of really good stuff. So there's always room for improvement. We know that. Every single position, every player has plays that they want to get back. Drew is the same. But again, another game where you start feeling better about how Drew is maturing, how he's developing. Because to your point, Brian, he is making up for those mistakes later in the game. Like, they're running similar concepts, and then he's making the proper read. He's doing things that he wasn't doing before. He's clearly learning from his mistakes at this point.
The biggest takeaway for me that he's got to fix, and I know it's tempting because how good he is, he's got to not lock in on Mayer as much as he did. Yeah, you were able to get away with it against BYU because they just didn't have the athletes. When you played Clemson in a month, they're going to have Trenton Simpson and Barrett Carter. They're going to have some guys that got a little bit more speed and a little bit more length to say, hey, look, you can't do that. You've got to take the opening. But that'll be his, 7th start? You don't expect him to make those same mistakes in those moments. And so that's why this was a big game for him and a big opportunity. Not just big game as far as how he played, but you're in a huge stadium with a really loud crowd against a ranked opponent. You got to kind of work that out of your system a little bit. So now when he heads back home in November, and you're going to have a road game against a team that's currently ranked here in about 3 weeks, too, that's going to be similar to that. So he'll be a little bit more tested for those moments when he gets a crack at it against Clemson.
Absolutely.
So, Ryan, let's talk a little bit about the Notre Dame defense and kind of what we saw from this game is big picture, a lot of really good mixed in with some really bad. And that's why statistically you can shut down a really good offense. I mean, they held BYU 2 touchdowns below their scoring average, and one of their touchdowns was set up by a long punt return. And you held Jaron Hall to his career lowest number of completions with 9, his career low in completion percentage, which was under 50, career low in yards as a starter at 120. And I think it was like his 3rd or 4th worst yards per attempt game. And yet you're still late in the game. They got a chance to make a play because of the big mistakes. And that's the thing. That's the same case against North Carolina. Notre Dame is, I will argue, 3 plays away on defense from blowing out North Carolina, like 52-17, and from blowing out BYU. We said something incorrect in the show on Saturday night. We said that the draw happened when they were up 25-6. They were actually up 25-13 at that time because the touchdown pass to Cody Epps happened before that. That mistake on 3rd and 17 allowed them to go down and make it 25-20. The principle still stands because if you shut them down there and make a stop, you're punting it. You're getting the ball near midfield. Your offense has been rolling pretty good. It's been on a pretty good rhythm here. You've got a chance to now put it away 32-13 that time in the game. Ball game's over. right? So it's that stuff that's got to get cleaned up. The good news is they are 4 plays away from blowing teams out. The bad news is this is the second game in a row they've allowed those things to happen. Because I'm not even taking away the Cody Epps play. I'm allowing the Cody Epps play to happen still. Because those things are going to happen. You know, it's not okay. We're going to draw that play up, but you're going to give up some big plays at times to good teams. It's the dumb plays like the 3rd and 17 draw that'll get you, that you just can't make those mistakes. It's the blown coverage against UNC. It's those type of things that just like, yeah, you can't make those mistakes. That's the stuff that frustrates you. But there is one position, however, that is consistently playing less than what all the other position groups are on just a snap-by-snap basis, and that's the linebacker position. And I know that's where we're going to start. So you tell me, Ryan, I want to let you kind of do – I talked a lot about the offense. This is going to be kind of your time. Just let me know what plays you want me to bring up, and we'll go from there. So I'll be your assistant here.
Yeah, I mean, if I could just go from like kind of the wide scope for a second, just kind of reiterate a couple things you said, right? This is going to sound like a backhanded compliment, but it's not. Notre Dame held them to 14 points below their season average and Jared Hall to a very forgettable day, and they could play a whole lot better, man. Like it was not nearly as good as Notre Dame can play. So when you kind of put all that together, you're kind of like, wow, Notre Dame can be really good. It's just the simple fact, man, of we're going to start with the linebackers, like you said, Brian. This position group is one, and I talked about this on Saturday night, and I was hoping, honestly, that I was going to kind of have a change of heart a little bit in the sense of like, hey, maybe it wasn't quite as bad as I thought it was, right? Like to take a look at the film, maybe, you know, I was nitpicking a little too hard. Maybe I was being a little over the top. And I'll be frank, I wasn't. It was bad, man. Like it was just not good linebacker play. I mean, it was across the board too. It wasn't one football player just, you know, making every mistake and then a couple other guys kind of overshadowed and made up for it. Like it wasn't. I mean, Jack Kaiser, I thought was the best linebacker on the day, but he made mistakes, right? JD Bertrand, when he came in the football game in the second half, and I feel like he became the whipping boy for a lot of people in the chat. Like, oh, as soon as JD came in, it was downhill from there. No, folks, it really wasn't, man. Like the run game stuff.
They were running on in the first half too, Ryan.
Yeah.
They rushed for 44 yards in the first quarter. 44 yards in the first quarter against Notre Dame. JD wasn't in there for that.
Now, and there's going to be a couple plays that we're going to show that was, I mean, I think maybe 3 or 4 of the plays that I picked out for tonight were first half plays when things were looking like they were going well, right? But it's the simple fact of like, hey, against BYU, this stuff might fly, right? But when you get to the Clemsons, when the Will Shipleys of the world, when you get to USC's with the Travis Dyes of the world, this is going to be different, man. It's going to be different. So, I mean, I think we should start with the good, though, right, Brian? I think the good of it is that when Notre Dame's linebackers were playing under control and being very, very kind of, I don't want to call it one note, but having a little bit of less responsibility and having a little bit of departmentalized responsibility, it was pretty good. And one of the first plays I want to talk about was Bo Bauer near the goal line, which I thought was a tremendous play for him and a tremendous play for the defense in general. So we're going to have this. This is pre-snap, obviously, right? We're on the goal line.
And real quick, Ryan, this is why we said after the show that Notre Dame should start telling their linebackers they're always in 3rd and 1 at the at 3rd and goal, because when they are hard to score on running the football in the red zone. They are, and linebackers are a big reason for that because they just go. Right. And that's what I think the coaching staff needs to look at is why are they so good there, but so terrible in between the 20s?
Well,
right.
Well, I'll tell you why it is on this play, at least. Right. So what we have here is that we have Gabriel Rubio and Chris Smith occupying both A gaps here. They're both on the outside shoulder of well, Rubio's on the outside shoulder. Chris Smith is in a 1 on the guard, but either way, they're still occupying the A gaps. Why are they doing that, folks? It's very simple. You want to have the center and both guards have to worry about 2 players. So you have a 3-on-2 blocking assignment, which allows number 52, who is Bo Bauer, to have an easy scrape. So they actually run, if we see from a defensive perspective, this is going to be strong left because we see 2 tight ends to the left side here from a defensive perspective. What's going to happen is that they actually are going to run inside zone, weak side here, where it's going to go to the B, end up going to the B gap. What happens is that Rubio and Chris Smith do a fantastic job occupying their blockers, stalling the momentum at the point of attack. There's no movement gained at all. And it's going to be a really easy, simplistic read for Bo Bauer. Because one thing that Bo does good, man, when he has clear vision and he's just getting downhill, Bo Bauer's a pretty good football player. And this is what we saw from this play, Brian. So this was the pre-snap. We also have the post-snap view. And it was one thing I want to really say about the defensive ends on the goal line too, to your point. Isaiah Foskey against North Carolina was an absolute animal near the goal line, Brian, like locking out, working the point of attack, and setting a firm edge. Riley Mills
see that right
crashes.
There. Look at that right there.
You can see, oh, man, look at that massive humanity there in the middle, man. Two guys take up three blockers. Riley Mills does a great job from the backside, squeezing down as well. You have a couple players
Ryan,
on the left side.
Can you do me a favor? Can you explain why this right here is so important against Carolina and on this play here? Can you just explain why that's so important?
Yeah, absolutely. So you see the player that Brian has circled there is Isaiah Foskey. So what Isaiah has done here is we always talk about his arm length, right? Why does arm length matter? That matters right here. He's able to get inside positioning on this guard, and he absolutely presses him. And what he does is that he is able to keep his leverage outside on him. Where now this running back, if he wants to spill this outside, hey, I got Isaiah Foskey right there, nothing. I got Maris Loifau doing a good job there to set the edge on Blake Freeland. There is no way that you are going to be able to work that inside zone, to that B or that C gap because you have players occupying every gap. So Bo Bauer given an easy A gap. And it makes if you remember this was 3rd and goal on their first touchdown. They hit Cody Epps on that little, they ran the motion and ran him back out real quick. It's almost like a natural pit type of thing. Yeah. But you saw, again, when Bo Bauer has clear vision, man, and when the defensive line does their job, the linebackers have traits that you can work with. I just think, again, we talked about it against North Carolina. Need to really start asking linebackers more consistently to do things that they're comfortable with, because this is something that Bo can do well. And if you remember this play, Bo stuck this running back in his tracks. There was nothing on that play.
Yeah, they went backwards. And I brought that other clip up because I wanted to show people where the ball was at the snap. It was just inside the 1 yard line. They snapped the next play from the 2. Because he knocked him in the backfield. And that's the other thing too, is it's not just about, it getting blocked up correctly. These are called this is why this is called force, right? Mm-hmm. They are, the edge players, they're either force players or spill players, to make it as simple as possible. You're either forcing it back inside or spilling it outside. In this instance, they're force players. They both do a great job here. And as you said, Bo absolutely cleans it up. But here's the other thing too. I've seen a lot of linebackers. Wasn't that Brooks playing that, Ryan?
Yes.
Wasn't he the runner? He's 230 pounds.
Yep, big kid.
I've seen a lot of linebackers step into that hole. This is the final thing that I want to add to it, Ryan, because Ryan explained it perfectly. I've seen a lot of linebackers step into a hole like that against a 230-pound running back, and it's still touchdown. Yep. And that's the thing about Bo, is he didn't get into the hole and wait. He got into the hole and attacked. And that was a really important thing, right? Because if you wait, he's driving you in the end zone. Mm-hmm. Flat, or if you go high, Bo, it just was like a missile, just kind of drove right through that guy, went low and drive right through that guy for a huge play for Notre Dame, right?
Yeah, yep. And so there was some pretty good linebacker plays that were just kind of mixed in throughout, folks. Like this was one that I think really exemplified, because again, I think that there's a simplification or a departmentalization, whatever word you want to use, for these linebackers. Like we saw against North Carolina, for instance, when Maris Loifau was asked to do kind of one job, right? Work in space, use his athleticism, played pretty well. Bo Bauer on this play made a nice football play. Jack Kaiser, I thought, played more confidently in this game. But the matter of fact, Brian, is that like this is by far, and I want to know if you disagree with this, but on an offensive and defensive perspective, this is the position that needs to get a whole lot better. Maybe wide receivers in that conversation with them.
Yeah, but no, I'm not putting the receivers there, because we've talked all year. The receivers, and I know you and Sean talked about this today. We've said it plenty of times. There have been opportunities for the receivers to make plays. Ball didn't come their way, right? They have not played great, but they have not played as bad as their numbers represent. Mm-hmm. The linebackers have played every bit as bad as their numbers and every other thing represents. This is the way you're talking about. Look at Riley Mills' crashness, because as you said, there was an inside zone. They completely stopped the line there. There was nowhere to go. nowhere to go. I thought Riley played I thought the ends played a pretty good game here against the run. At times, I thought Nana in the first half was not as good. I thought in the second half, Nana was a little better setting the edge. He did a great job of it on the fourth down stop at the end of the game. I mean,
yes,
Jason Adamiola made the play, but Nana had a great edge set on that particular play. Ryan
sure did.
I thought it.
Yeah, no, it was in Brian. I mean, I think consistently, like you said, the defensive ends, I thought, set a pretty firm edge for the most part, right? I mean, you mentioned Nana, and I thought Nana got kind of out-leveraged a little bit to the outside of points, but I thought Foskey did a nice job. I thought Riley Mills did a nice job. I thought Justin Adamalola did a nice job setting firm edges in this football game, and Nana did it from time to time, too. It was just a little more consistent.
A little more consistent.
I think, Brian...
But he did it when it mattered most, Ryan. That's the thing. Is like, look, if you're going to screw something up, it's like Drew Pine. Like, yeah, you made some throws, but you made the mistakes, but what did you do the next time? When he had those chances, he came back and made those plays.
100%. 100%. As long as you're showing internal growth and being able to make up for those mistakes, I could work with you, man. Like, no one's perfect. I mean, it's just the world that we live in, right? Like, nobody is going to make the right decision every single time, but the growth factor is the biggest thing for me. But I think that, Brian, like, again, I don't want to get super negative here, but I think we should show a couple of these linebacker plays that I wasn't so
bringing this next one up. Yes.
Okay.
This is
Okay, so it's a light box here, okay, which first and foremost, I'm kind of like, I don't understand exactly why we have a light box. We're working in 11 personnel, so obviously they've pulled a guy out of the box here. So we have 4 down linemen, Jason Adamalola, Gabriel Rubio, and 2 defensive ends. Looks like Justin Adamalola and Nana Osafo-Mensah to the wide side of the field, if I have that correct. That is the Viper. Yep, Brian is
the numbers are here. The numbers are right here, Ryan. So yeah, they are to the short side.
Yep. So you have a single linebacker in the game here, which is of course Maris Loifau. And so immediately, Brian, I'm looking at this, right? We're a gap short for backside in this play, right? To the left side of the field, because you have a nose guard that's occupying
here or here.
Gap.
Which looking from the left side, from the defensive side. Okay. So,
defense is left. Excuse me. So we have Gabriel.
Dude, you know I'm an offensive guy, so I'm always.
I know. Now you're the other way. It used to drive my coaches crazy, man, because I used to draw up the plays, and I would draw from a defensive perspective. They're like, no, you got to draw that from an offensive perspective. No, I don't.
It was the hardest thing I had to do my first year as a coach was drawing up the cards, because I would always draw it from the offense. And they're like, dude, you're running the scout team defense. You got to draw it up from
exactly. That was the same problem, man. I had the same exact problem, that's really funny. But to the defense's left here, you have Gabriel Rubio, who is in an A gap. That he's an A gap defender there. You have Nana Osafo-Mensah, who's the defensive end at the top, and he has a C gap player. What you right now tells me you're a gap short to the left side there. You have no player that is responsible for B. I'm assuming that there's going to be a safety there late to fill, but either way, you are out leveraged to that side, which is not a great place to be. On the right side, you're okay. You have a Justin Adamalola, who is playing a head-up technique on the tight end, so he's basically two-gapping to his side. And you're going to have a Jason Adamalola, who's a B-gap player, and then you're going to have, it looks like Benjamin Morrison, who's going to end up being the contained player outside. And you have Maris Loifau, who is the A-gap player. So you're a guy front side, Brian, which makes this play equally as frustrating to me that this happened this way. Okay. We're going to pull up the front side clip. So basically what happens here is they run, we're going to get the play up. They basically are running inside zone where I'm sorry. They were not running inside zone. So they were pulling a guard that was originally on. So if I'm the defensive side, it was the right guard, the left guard that was pulling to his right to the defense's left. I have zero idea, and I have watched this. So this is what linebackers do, okay?
Hold on a second, Ryan.
Yep.
I'm going to just show this real quick.
Yeah, if we could draw that, it'd probably be a little better.
The back is here,
yep.
And this is the puller.
Yep, that's the puller. Yep, so he pulls. Right, and then he's going to lead. Yep.
I want to show it because the guy that pulls – Maris is staring right at him.
Brian, that's my frustration. So linebackers you can either lead flow or you can read guards, right? On this play, I have no idea what Maris is looking at. I have zero idea.
They both take in the same direction.
Right. Either you're reading the running back flow which means that you're working to the defense's left, or you're going to read that guard, and it's also going to take you to the defense's left for whatever reason. It's almost like Maris Loifau is cross reading for the read, for the pull off of the quarterback. I have no idea what this is. I have no idea what this is. As a former linebacker, I watched this play about six times, and I'm like, I have no idea what Maris Loifau is looking at. I have zero idea. I don't like Brian. I'm really trying to quantify this properly. Whether he's reading guard or he's reading flow, I have no idea why he's going after the quarterback. Well, I know it's like he's cross reading, right. But the problem is that you can't cross read if there's no other inside linebacker there. Like,
one of two things happened here, Ryan. One is he completely read it wrong, or two is he didn't know what the call was, and they're both bad. I actually think if he didn't know what the call was, that makes it even worse. Because like, how do you not know the call? I mean, everybody else got the call right. Like everybody else is blocking, you know. I mean, because like now, if he's here and he's crashing this hole, right? So then one of two things has happened. He takes on this guard, which then maybe forces this guy back. Well, now you've got a safety coming from over here and Benjamin Morrison coming back here to help you to clean that up, right? Yep. And so, you know, those are the things you look at and you say, boy, those things just can't continue to happen, man. They just can't.
I mean, Brian, first and foremost, and we're going to talk about it, you know, from just a general perspective of what. So when we're looking at this play, right, first and foremost is that I think that there's a defensive issue here from an alignment perspective, right? We're a gap short to the front side, to the back side, excuse me. That's the first and foremost. The second is that if Maris Loifau thinks he's cross reading, so for people that don't know what cross reading is, one linebacker will have the play away and the other linebacker makes up for it on the other direction, right? So basically what I'm trying to say is here, if you have two linebackers, the quarterback is keeping away, that player is going to read that quarterback, and then the other inside linebacker is going to read flow to him, right? So that makes up for the numbers issue. But here, you're short a gap, you're short numbers, and I have no idea what Maris is looking at. I have no idea. And this is the type of stuff that, again, when you start facing off against if you do this against Will Shipley, this ended up being like a 8-yard run, right? Like, okay, right. A good little run, but it wasn't like, wow, this stinks, right? Like this is like demoralizing. When you go against a Will Shipley, that's a touchdown. When you go against a Travis Dye, that might be a touchdown. Sure. That's the difference.
Sean, hey, look, they play Syracuse before them. You're doing against that kid, it's Sean Tucker, it's a touchdown. I mean, he's already beaten for an 80-yard touchdown one. Here's the thing, Ryan. Like, here's what would have made me say he's doing the right thing. If we would have seen this kind of action, right? Like something like this, you know, like something like that. Then that was said, okay, Maris is playing strong side. He has a stunt strong side. The reason that I don't believe that was it is because nobody else. So either he got it wrong or everybody else did.
And law of averages say it's the one person not doing the right thing.
You know what I mean? Like if you've got like a hard slant, some hard slants there, you know, like some really hard slant. I mean, okay, sure. Then I could have said, hey, you know, Maris. Then I could have understood him doing that, right? But Jaron Hall, number one, Jaron Hall is not that kind of runner, or they should have been doing that. And as I said, number two, nobody else responded to that. So it just to me, it backs up that it was a mistake by him.
It was very frustrating,
and there was a decent amount of that. There's a decent amount of that game.
Well, Brian, I pulled like 4 or 5 plays that were just linebacker plays.
Yeah, we're gonna go to the touchdown run next, Ryan, and kind of walk through that one, and then you can kind of get through that one. And then there are some good things that we're going to show, but there's obviously a couple things that we're like, not good.
Yeah. So well, and this could be viewed as a positive, in my opinion, right? There's a lot wrong. Yet you still held this team to 20 points.
Yeah, you're not giving up touchdowns because your dudes aren't very good. Right.
Yes, exactly. So on this play, I feel a lot better where we are, right? Alignment perspective looks good to me, right? We have all the gaps occupied. We're not a gap short. We're not a player short. We are good here, right? When you're looking at it, and this is from the offense's perspective, you see to the right offensively, you have a B gap, you have an A gap player in that linebacker. You have a B gap player in the defensive tackle. You have the defensive end to the offense's right that is playing head up on the tight end. So he is a 2-gap player at that point. You have the safety over top of the H-back there, which is DJ Brown. And then you have Maris Loifel as the force player outside. You are good there. Backside, you're also good. You have a nose tackle there that is in the A-gap occupying. That backside linebacker is going to have backside B. And then you have the defensive end who has C-gap. You are good, man. I have no issues with alignment.
Right.
You have
and of course, Ryan, we're just saying by alignment because you could do this, right? But the point is that Ryan's making is you have someone to account for those gaps, whether you're doing this and that, whether you're doing this and that. The point is these gaps are covered. Somebody is there to account for those gaps. Yep. So please continue.
Yep. And in the previous situation, in the previous example, I did not like structurally how we were starting the playoff, right? There was a gap short, in my opinion, front side. This play, we're good, man. We are good. So starting point is awesome. Now, things unravel after it does not get great. And this is actually not a whole linebacker issue, in my opinion, on this play. This was also a play. This is the touchdown run where number 2 kind of bent it to the sideline there. So there's a couple plays. There's a couple reasons that this play works for them. One is that they did a good job blocking up front, first and foremost. Let's start there. But what happened is that this nose guard in this sequence is going to end up getting double teams, Brian. That's Gabriel Rubio. He gets mauled at the point of attack by the double team. What he does,
he gets knocked back and then put on the ground.
Yes, he gets put on the ground. And not only does he do that, the center and the guard also were able to take him right into J.D. Bertrand and knock him out of the play as well. So they took out of 2 players on this play, all for the double team, which is how you draw it up, man. That's why you combo.
Was this JD or was which one was JD? Which was it?
Front side to the strength. That's JD.
Okay.
Yeah, and then that's gonna be Kaiser, who backside, who's trying to come over through the flow, but he just gets he just is a little too slow to react there, right? So they double team up to the first level.
And Ryan, real quick, if you're asking him to make this play out here, a lot of crap went wrong.
You're in trouble.
Yes.
Yeah.
This is not on Jack Kaiser.
Yeah, no, it's not on Jack Kaiser. And I don't think this is actually on JD Bertrand either. Like, I think he could have been a little quicker to react on this. His trigger could have been a little faster. But this is, defensive
I think
line.
If he would have reacted quicker, I think he might actually have gotten tripped up even more. Because he ran right into where they were driving Gabriel Rubio, in my opinion.
Yeah. So,
but anyway,
I mean, you got that double team that just took 2 guys out of the play. And then, Brian, this one drove me crazy, man. DJ Brown on this play, number 13, who is Mason Wake. He's a fullback, H-back type, right? He runs just like a shallow cross, and DJ just follows him the whole way, man. It takes him out of the play. It was weird. I don't understand exactly. And if we could go to the post-snap play, you'll be able to see it. You'll actually see that DJ completely just followed this crossing route. So not only did your linebacker get taken up because your nose tackle did not do a good enough job pre-snap, but you also now have a linebacker that has trying to float all the way across. He's never going to get there if you're Jack Kaiser. And your safety that's front side, DJ, who's a good run defender, is chasing a fullback across the field so that you are now another player short on the front side of this run, and it bends all the way to the sideline for 6 points.
Mm-hmm. It was a strange play. It was a very strange play, Ryan. It's almost like they weren't ready when the ball was snapped. That's kind of what I felt like on this particular play. That they just weren't quite ready when the ball was snapped for some reason. It was very strange. Let's draw up the what it looked like post snap.
Yep.
Sorry, I forgot that you sent me that.
You're good. You're good.
There we go.
All right. So as you can see right there, right? So perfect. I mean, that mass of humanity that's in the middle there, you can see. The center and number 71 are both actually. Oh, Brian, I completely drew it up wrong, actually. So the center and the guard did not double team up to the second level. It was actually the guard and the backside tackle, which actually makes it worse because that's a tough reach block on the double team for Blake Freeland. So they are able to create that movement, and you can see right there. 71 is now taking out J.D. Bertrand on the play. Gabriel Rubio's already on the ground. This play started from about the 30-yard line, and Gabriel Rubio got pushed back to the 25, right? So he got displaced about 5 yards on that play. You can see there.
Because this was a 30-yard touchdown run, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep. So he got displaced about 5 yards, which made the linebacker get collision there. He's on the ground. And then, Brian, you could see it right there. Do you see DJ Brown chasing this play to the middle of the field?
Idea what he's doing.
I have no idea what he's doing. I have no idea.
There were some very strange plays from the secondary in this game against the run. Like the draw play that went for set 20 on 3rd and 17. Like Jaden Mickey is just not looking at the ball. He just runs right into the blocker as the running back is running right inside of him. And you're like, okay, fresh mistake. But then you see it here too. It just, there was some very, very puzzling stuff in this game, right? Very puzzling stuff.
And it's really frustrating too, because if you look on the front side here, defensive tackle did a pretty nice job, right? Front side, like he takes up multiple blockers. Maris Loifel actually does a good job being that contained player and setting a firm edge there. It's just when one or two players do not do their job, that's when touchdowns happen, man. That's when it happens.
Well, and what do we say on offense? When you get blown up right up the middle, it's going to screw you up. It's the same thing as true on defense. If your nose guard gets dominated like that on a play, it's going to screw you up. I mean, you're going to have a hard time making a play. Now, Gabriel did a lot of nice things in this game. He's learning and evolving, and I think plays like that long-term are going to be good for him because, this isn't a kid that – look, Gabriel, y'all don't understand how – the guys that cover recruiting were Gabriel Rubio's numbers his last years in high school were just he had like over 60 tackles for loss. He was like almost 30 sacks. I mean, he just was a dominant player because he was so much bigger and athletic than everybody he went against. Needs plays like this and say, hey, look, just because you're 300 pounds doesn't mean you cannot move your feet off the ball. Doesn't, you know what I mean? Like you got to bring it every play. Well, in the previous games, he was giving you like 5 snaps. So he was coming in with his hair on fire. Well, sometimes young guys, when they're playing more snaps, Ryan, and they had to because Cross wasn't playing and Lacey quit, he knew he had to play more. And sometimes young guys can say, I got to pace myself a little bit. You know what I mean? And that's a lesson learned that he'll get from it. It's kind of like what we talked about with Drew Pine. Like the interception was terrible, but he's going to learn from that. He's going to come back from that. And next time they run a play like that in that situation, you'd hope that he's going to read it out and make the throw. Same thing for Gabriel here. He's going to know, like, look, man, I did not bring my feet. I did not do this. I did not do that. And I got my butt kicked, And if you know Gabriel Rubio, he's not going to take well to that. He's going to be a little ticked off, and that's what you want him to be. That's where you want him to be.
And
Ryan,
we've talked.
Go ahead.
Sorry, I was just going to say, Brian, we've talked a lot of positives about Gabriel the last 2 weeks. I think that he's shown a lot of positive signs. It's just, again, snap to snap consistency. It's something that needs to be remedied, but he's heading in the right direction, so he'll be fine.
Let's draw up a couple positive. Oh no, let's one more negative, Ryan. Got to do one more negative because this play, this is a play that a lot of people have asked about. So I want to draw up the touchdown pass to Cody Epps here real quick. So let's draw that up and talk through what happened there. Okay, let's bring this up. All right.
Yep.
So this is Cody Epps right here, correct?
Yep, that's Cody Epps. So you have a 2x2 set here. You have the H-back front side. You have the wide receiver up there, and then you have 2 wide receivers to the bottom of the screen. So like Brian said, the slot to the bottom of the screen is Cody Epps. So, Brian, I mean, honestly, man, I drew this one up, and I'm still a little confused as to what the coverage is supposed to be here, if I'm being completely honest. So what you have here, you have a single high free safety. You have the strong safety that is already rotated down right there. So you are in a single high look. What happens here is that it looks like it's cover 3 to the bottom of the screen, or I'm sorry, cover 3 to the bottom of the screen to me. That corner releases and he has a zone turn, which means that he turns to the middle of the field.
Covering deep thirds of the field.
Right. Yep, deep third. What happened, though, which is weird, though, Brian, is that middle of the field safety kind of bit way over to like the hash instead of playing to the middle of the field, which was a little odd. So
he went that way. He went back
to the bottom of the screen. Yeah.
Okay. So he goes here.
So he went far inside there, which was odd to begin with. But both corners played it like it was cover 3 to me. That's what it looked like. And then you had what ends up being Jaden Mickey one-on-one with a Cody Epps inside. My first reaction is, where's the help inside? I'm just a little confused as to what this play was supposed to be. Because again, it was like almost like a cover 23 for a second, right? It was like cover 2 to the weak side, cover 3 to the front side, almost like cover 6, I guess, in that instance. But it was just, I don't know, Brian. Like, I'm still trying to figure it out, man. I think this was a instance, and my number 2 key that I wanted to talk about a ton was defensive back wise or coverage wise, I should just say as a whole. I feel like there's a lack of communication at times, and it's almost like different secondary members have different calls, or that they think they have different calls, which this looks like a complete coverage bust to me. Because what happens is that you would basically end up having the corner at the bottom of the screen carries the vertical route. It's an outside vertical. The safety to the middle of the field also works to that vertical as well, to the bottom of the screen. You have backside, the receiver all the way at the top of the screen. He runs just like a deep comeback route to the sideline. So that corner basically ends up having him man-to-man. And then you have Cody Epps in the middle of the field there, who he runs kind of almost like a streak route, but he gives him a little stutter at the top of it and hits it right to the middle of the field. So what happens here is that, again, Mickey basically is covering him man-to-man. He ends up in man-to-man coverage, and this is the one thing that we talked about even back to the spring, Brian, even back to fall camp. Jaden Mickey is a really aggressive football player who's going to be an excellent player at Notre Dame and has already done some really nice stuff during the first few weeks. But the one thing that has gotten him hurt is anytime there's a double move of any sort or any type of movement at the top of the stem, that gets him in trouble a little bit. So Cody Epps, it's not even a huge fake, man. Like, he literally
this is just like a little mini head nod.
It's a little head fake.
Right.
Yeah, it's a quick head fake outside, bends it back to the middle of the field. There's no safety in the middle of the field because he went all the way down for the vertical route to the bottom of the screen.
I want to point something out here too, Ryan, is his alignment is inside, right?
Yep.
So the thing is he's protecting the inside with his alignment. The way he opens up, he turns outside, right? Yes. And so the thing is like your alignment is protecting the inside, which means that's the side you can't let them get to, right? So if the guy wants to go outside, then you let him go. You go with them, and then you get in trail. He's got to basically what Coach Freeman said today is he's got to carry the number 2 seam, right? And that requires a little bit of patience, because if this guy wants to run an out cut, then you react. Then once you see him make that break, then you cover. You get downhill on him. What Jaden does is he kind of sits and lets the guy get on him, which I thought was kind of a mistake. And then that little nod gets Jaden to just bite it, and then he goes there. Which, if I'm another team, and we've talked about this, Ryan, if I see Jaden Mickey in a game, if I'm a head coach and I see 21 in the game and you haven't run some kind of double move on him within the first 3 snaps, I'm going off on my offensive coordinator, because he's gotten beat 3 different games with that. Now, one game, Marshall, right, beat him for a touchdown. It got called back because of a penalty. He got beat on a touchdown on the similar thing against Ohio State, and then he got beat for a touchdown here. So Jaden Mickey's a very talented player, but he's a young player, and this is what we talked about during the offseason. He's my biggest fear with Jaden Mickey. He's too aggressive. What did we say during the offseason? If I'm going against Jaden Mickey, I'm running a double move on him early on. We've said that. We've said that all along. So it's really important that they really remind him and get on him, and I know they have, about, dude, be patient. I think that's the biggest thing with Jaden. Be patient, right? If this guy wants to run a little quick out, fine. We're okay. You see it, you rally to it, you tackle him at 5 yards. What you can't do is vacate this. You can't. And I don't think he was the only – I think this is the point you're making, Ryan. Based on how they were playing, I don't think he was the only guy that made a mistake, because I don't still know what that guy did on the play. I'm like,
that's why.
Who was he covering?
He was just covering like hook curl there. Like, he was just working to. It was weird, man.
Inside
I'm not
number
really,
2. I don't understand that. Like, I don't understand why he'd be doing that.
Well, actually, no, I'm wrong.
I'm
wrong, Brian. I'm wrong. That safety blitzed on this play.
That's the one. Okay.
Yeah, he blitzed on that play. My mistake. Yep. This is where they brought the safety blitz. Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Well, yeah, I know. I know.
Why
I
is
watched
it
it
that
like
they
3
always do
times.
that when Jaden Mickey's in the game? Like, you're putting that kid in a
You
pretty
just want to
terrible
sell them
situation. Like,
out. Oh,
I mean, come on, man. Come on
yep.
now.
Yeah, so I think that was
Jeez
DJ
Louise.
Brown. DJ Brown blitzed on this play. Again, though, but like it seemed like everyone was playing with cover 3 principles here, but except for the deep safety. I don't think that it's just Jaden Mickey on this play either, regardless. I don't know why. I don't know, man. Again, like I'm not really sure what the coverage was because that middle of the field safety threw me through a loop watching his drop on this play.
That's a bad thing, Ryan, when you're watching a
Yeah.
game and you're not sure who should have done something different.
Because at first I'm like,
yeah.
I mean, at first, Brian, I was like, okay, they're playing cover 3 to the front side of the field, right? And then they're playing 2 backside, so it's like cover 6, right?
Yeah.
But even then, man, I just don't know why that safety was so quick to get over to the numbers. Like, I don't understand why, especially with you have a 2x2 set, right? So you have that inside receiver. You need to split the difference on those two, man, working to the sideline.
Mm-hmm.
You can't just run directly to the sideline. That's why it was bizarre, man. It's really bizarre.
So let's do some good stuff, Ryan, and we're going to start off with a goal line play.
Yep.
With Jason Adamiola. So we're going to go here.
Yep.
And talk us through what happened.
Yep. So my third big key of this game was when Notre Dame attacks, they are a good football team, man. They really are. So this play, and Brian kind of already quantified it up a little bit, right? When Notre Dame's on the goal line, they're a good team. I don't know what it is, man. They're defensively, they play some good football. So again here, we're gap sound across the board. See, to the left side, the defense is left. You have Maris Loifau, who's a contained player, the C-gap player there. You have number 9, who's Justin Adamalola, who's going to end up being he's 2-gapping technically, but he's going to end up being a B-gap player on this team, on this play. You have number 57 to his right, that nose, which is Jason Adamalola. Then you have Gabriel Rubio, who's in a 2 technique, head up on the guard on the front side there. And then so he's 2-gapping. Jack Kaiser's behind him. He's going to have whichever gap ends up being not occupied by Gabriel Rubio. So he's going to
run
make
fit.
him right.
He's fitting off of Gabriel Rubio.
Yes. Yep. So if Gabriel Rubio ends up being an A-gap player there, then Jack becomes a B. If Gabriel Rubio ends up being a B-gap player, then Jack ends up being an A-gap player. And then front side, you have Nano Safamensa, who's the C-gap player. You also have number 2, DJ Brown, as the force player because there's a H-back in this game. And then Brandon Joseph, you can see at the goal line there as well. So again, Brian, you're good here, man. Everything looks good. Assignment sound. And this ends up being a really good football play. And I wanted to highlight this one because this was one of the best plays I have seen of Jason Adamalola all season, man. He did a tremendous job. And it was a good job across the board. When you kind of see the second shot here in a second, you're going to see that everyone occupies and does their job accordingly. There's nothing fancy about this one, right? Like there's no slanting. There's no, stunts up front. There's nothing. Everyone is just occupying their gap and doing great stuff. Jason Adamalola, folks, if you could see him occupying that center, he basically ends up slanting across that guy's face. That running back, they're running just inside zone to the defense's right. And what Jason does is that he creates such easy and good penetration here. He takes that center and he gets him in the running back's way. He destroys the track where now that running back has to stop, plant, and then try to fight backside. But the problem is that backside, you have his brother, Justin Adamalola, come in to make the play. So this is a play where Jason doesn't get the tackle. He doesn't get the credit. He doesn't get the glory. He doesn't get the box score. Doesn't get anything. But he sets up his brother for an easy tackle for loss here because he created such great penetration to the front side of the play.
Yep. It was very well done. It was one of 2 big plays that he had in this game, which is part of the reason why I named him the defensive player of the game for Notre Dame. Is his production wasn't, and like he didn't have like 2 tackles, I think is all he had in the game. But man, he made some big time plays in this game. He really did. And the play that we're not going to, and the play we're not going to talk about is on the safety blitz, on the safety, the Jack Kaiser. Jack Kaiser made a great play on that, but that play works because of Jason Adamiola. Meaning Jack was coming from a little bit of depth. If Jaron Hall just drops back and throws that ball on rhythm, the ball's out, and then Jack hits him after the throw. that play works because Jason just drove the guard right into Jaron Hall and made Jaron Hall he was getting ready to throw, and then the guy's in his face, he's got to stop throwing, and then that's when Jack Kaiser comes from behind and blows him up. So yes, Jack Kaiser did his job and did a great job, but my point is that it doesn't happen. It's like the strip sack we talked about Cincinnati last year. Isaiah Foskey made a great play on that, but it doesn't happen if Alexander Ahrensberger doesn't get his hands up and force Desmond Ridder to take the ball down. Sometimes it's somebody else doing their job at a high level that then allows the impact play to happen. And that was kind of my point on that. There's another play. Go ahead, Ryan.
I was just going to say, Brian, and like how this defense it functions, right? This one gap penetration style defense. It's those types of plays, man. Because again, he might not get credit for the play, he might not get credit for the tackle, but what Jason Ademilola did on that play was so impactful, and he created absolute mayhem and chaos. And what you do against like zone blocking, right, against a zone run, is when a running back has to be forced to make a decision and not make a decision because of what he's reading. That's when you really mess up those types of plays. So again, just hats off to Jason Ademilola, man. He made a great play on that.
Last play we're going to bring up here and break down. This has been so much fun. This was the first play of the game and a big play of the game, Ryan. So let's talk about I thought this was very interesting, kind of what they showed pre-snap, what they did post-snap, all that. So why don't you talk people through that?
Yeah, so this is a vertical concept from the offense here. So BYU came out, Brian, and they were like, we want to try to hit with deep shot here. So This is the interception for Tariq Bracy on the first play of the game. So you actually see here, Tariq Bracy has made his living as a slot defender so far this season. He actually started this football game out into the field side cornerback here to the bottom of the screen. So all that, it's nothing fancy, man. 2 outside verticals. They're trying to hit something deep. They have that H-back that ends up running kind of like a delayed seam route too. So he almost becomes almost like a safety blanket type of player, a late read there. They're literally just trying to take a shot and take advantage and create a big play on the first play of the game. And Notre Dame counters perfectly, if we're being honest, right? They end up running cover 3 on this play. So what happens is that the boundary safety there, which is Brandon Joseph, he is going to rotate to the middle of the field on this play. And then what happens is DJ Brown is the field safety, He's going to rotate down into being a curl flat. He's going to end up being a curl flat defender. Actually, a hook curl defender.
Hook curl, yeah.
Because you're going to have the curl flat defender outside there. Yep. So easy enough, folks. Notre Dame gets good pressure with 4 here. They did a nice job. It's not
let me ask you this question,
amount of
Ryan.
pressure. Yeah.
Let me ask you this question. If you're the quarterback and you see this look, what are you thinking they're running? The structure of this.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Well, I think Notre Dame did a great job all game on this, Brian. That's one thing that I think they really did a good job defensively is they were rotating a lot post-snap. So right now, you have 2 high safeties. So 2 high safeties tells me cover 2, cover 4. That's what I'm saying, right? It's going to be an even number. It's going to be cover 2.
That's 2.
It's going to be cover.
And then that would be 4. Yep.
So that's what my eyes tell me. What Notre Dame does is that they show the 2 high look pre-snap, and then post-snap they rotate. So at the beginning of the play, the quarterback is assuming, hey, I'm going to have some type of 2 high coverage, going to have it. And then what happens is that Brandon Joseph doesn't even really get involved in this play because Notre Dame gets enough pressure that for whatever reason, Jaron Hall just short-armed this ball. Not exactly sure why.
Nothing too is I think Notre Dame kind of baited him a little bit into this too, Ryan, because if they're showing a cover 2 look, but this safety is way inside over the middle of the field, right? So it's going to be really hard for that guy to get out from 10, 11 yards off the ball over top of that, right? And then you've got a one-on-one to a 5'10" against a 5'10" corner, right? But what at the snap, Tariq opens up and just gets inside of him. That's what let me know it's cover 3, Ryan, because he stayed inside of him the whole time, which is how you properly play cover 3. The reason for that is if this guy gets up the seam and they throw the seam, then the corner can squeeze down in on that seam, right? Which is why you play it that way. So, but yes, really good disguising, Ryan. And you're correct. They did a pretty good job of that the whole game.
Yeah, I thought so. For the most part, I thought they were in 2 high shells a large portion of the game, but it wasn't always ends up being a 2 high look. They rotated really good amount post-snap in this football game, which was great to see. And just an awesome play by Tariq Bracy. Like you said, Brian, he gets inside leverage and he's able to run. When he's able to do that, man, he's a really good football player. Underthrown ball, and he's able to finish at the catch point for the huge play. And I mean, what a start to the game for Notre Dame. You defer, they get the ball, first play of the game. Your guy that's probably been your best defensive player pretty consistently throughout the season makes a big play to start the football game.
Yep. I think sometimes they maybe do a little bit too much of that, which is what's causing some of the confusion. But the reality is there are two things they can do. One is they can kind of scale some of this back. But then number two is the more these kids play in this defense, the more they're going to not have those mistakes too, right? We saw this a little bit last year with Marcus Freeman, is where you'd see these really silly mistakes that would lead to big plays. But then you got to the end of the season and they were much more comfortable and confident in what they were doing in the new scheme. And then they eliminated a lot of those mistakes, right? Like even against Oklahoma State didn't beat Notre Dame because they were blowing coverages. They just flat out outplayed Notre Dame. But we didn't see the big plays happening because of, oh, gee, I didn't know I was supposed to do that, like we saw early in the year. You know what I mean? It was missed tackles and stuff like that, but it wasn't like, oh, gee, they didn't know what they were doing. They knew what they were doing. They just didn't stop it. Right. So I think that's the other thing is I think we'll see them clean some of this stuff up, even if they don't scale it back at all, which I mean, we both agree they should. That's why I think the linebackers struggle as much as they do and why we do see these blown assignments in games. But just the more experience is going to allow them to get there, and that's kind of a big part of where I'm at with that one. So Ryan, that is going to do it for the X's and O's breakdown of this part of the show. We do have a couple Q&A things that we're going to get to here because we want to be able to, answer some of the chats. I want people to understand, like, just so people know, we do not do a mailbag after this show. This is just, let's break it down and let's just do get some really good insight over there and move on. But when people send super chats, we're always going to answer your super chats. So I do want to just let people know that we're going to 3 super chats. We're going to answer them, and then we're going to get out of here because Ryan's had a long day of shows today. So did a great job on the earlier show, and now we're doing a great job on this one. So we did have a super chat from Chris Irish Young. Thank you for that, Chris. Notre Dame offense has scored only 6 points. I have a story coming up about this tomorrow. Notre Dame offense has only scored 6 points in the first quarter all season. How, in your eyes, can Tommy script the early offense plays to get more points to start out the game? I don't know if the script's the problem, Ryan. It's just execution is the problem for me. You had first drive against Ohio State. You go right down the field, first play of 54 yards, and then you don't execute in the red zone. And I didn't love the play calling necessarily. Yeah. This game, same thing. You get the pick, you go right down the field, you get inside the 10, and you miss, and you have to settle for a field goal. I think the issues have been execution more than anything. And so just play better. I don't know if the script is necessarily an issue for me, Ryan, as much as it's just you're not executing. I mean, like, for example, the Cal game. The script had guys open on, like, first couple plays of the game, and then, Drew throws one into the ground, and, he just misses guys, right? It's execute better, right? I think that's really a bigger thing for me. But they got to now. Are there some things maybe they can look at and say, hey, are we coming out personnel wise? Are we maybe throwing too much? Are we running too much? Can we maybe go tempo a little bit? I mean, what can we do? You got to find some of those answers. And then, of course, you start 2 games with one quarterback, and then the next 3 games with a different quarterback. And each quarterback is going to have his own, early game things that you got to work through. Some guys are too amped up. Some guys you got to amp them up. Some guys, are just whatever the case may be. And so you're also learning with 2 quarterbacks. And the thing that hurt in the first 3 games really is line play. Yeah. I mean, even the first drive against Cal, 3rd down, and guy runs through on a 4-man pressure, 3-man pressure, no 4-man pressure. Remember the Mike Fire just runs through and you got no way there. So just bad execution is really the thing for me, but it's got to get fixed because, 6 points in 5 games.
That's really bad.
And it's not nearly good enough. No. Stephen F. with a super chat. What are your guys' thoughts on the linebacking core? I feel we need more athleticism, especially with Clemson approaching. I just want to say something real quick, Ryan. I don't think athleticism is the problem.
Agreed.
I think they're not playing to their athletic ability. Maris Luafau didn't, I don't know if he just doesn't look right to me still. And I think it's part the hamstring, but also I think the biggest thing is just thinking too much. JD Bertrand did not get slower. than he was last year. It's not an athleticism thing to me. I think there's a size issue with JD and Jack when they're both in the inside together at times, but it's just they're just not playing well. I mean, they're just not playing well. Now, does that mean that they can't? That they need to get more athletic in general? JD Bertrand's athletic enough to be a good player at Notre Dame, but then Drake Bowen takes it to a different level. Jaden Osbury takes it to a different level, right? Jalen Sneed takes it to a different level. And that's what they're doing. But those kids, in their coach's view, right or wrong, just aren't ready yet. So agree overall. Yes, they do need to get more athletic at linebacker, but that's not the thing that's hurting them right now.
Agree,
in
100%.
my opinion.
No, I think it's the speed of the eyes, not the speed of the body. If I'm being completely honest,
eyes and brain are slowing down the feet. Correct.
100%.
Now to his point, to Steven's point, the linebacker play has to get a lot better.
No doubt.
By the time they play Clemson, a lot better.
No doubt about that.
They're going to make that offense look better than I think that it is.
Yes.
Milton Fan 15 with also a super chat. Thank you for that very, very much, Milton. He says post-game show, Vince doing caveman voice talking about how NBC Box can't get the line of scrimmage right had me in tears laughing. Yeah. That was a fun show. That was a fun show.
Aside from Vince being incredibly smart football-wise, he's also the comedian of the bunch as well.
Yes, he is. He's a very funny guy. And you learn, you actually have, I was going to say, wait till you get to hang out with him, but you did when we went out to dinner that first time you were in town during the spring. So very good dude, very funny dude. There's no doubt about it. He's got a great laugh too, that real deep belly laugh that Vince has got. I love it. He's got that, and then Sean has the silent laugh. Have you noticed the difference between those two? Like Sean's like my dad. My dad and my uncle both are that way. They'll laugh and they'll just shake like this, but they don't actually make noise. You know what I mean? Sean's that way. Sean will just like be laughing, but you're not hearing anything.
Sean does do that. That's funny.
Yeah,
I never noticed
that. And then Vince has that very loud belly laugh. It's just really funny that they have those two complete dichotomy. And you've got the giggle. You know what I mean? Like
me? I don't.
Pretty funny. Yeah. I have it on tape. Remember you? I got it right there.
Awesome. Great.
All right. But yes, this was a fun show, Ryan. Great stuff, man. I really enjoyed this very, very much. We'll be back to being on track to do this next Sunday. Hopefully the all 22 is there a little bit. But I think now you guys understand why we waited today. I think it's just so much better. We can show you the all 22 shots of these clips as opposed to trying to hope that, because like we can do it with the NBC film, but I got to show you the pre-snap look and say, okay, I know the safeties aren't on here, but this is where they would have been. You know what I mean? And then there's all the other stuff on there. I just think this is a cleaner, better product. So hopefully you all agree. And, of course, I had a blast doing this. So we'll be back tomorrow, Ryan. You and I will be doing a show at 1:00 tomorrow. We're going to talk Stanford. And we're going to talk about what Stanford is, but we're going to look at it from the standpoint of how they've changed over the years and how those changes have really caused their program to go in the hole. Did you see the way that game ended on Saturday night?
I just saw the final score, 28-27.
Go watch the last play of the game. Actually, you know what? While I'm doing the outro, I want to see your facial reaction as you watch it. So pull it up right now and go look at the last play of the Stanford-Oregon State game and just see how they lost. But so tomorrow, 1:00, Ryan and I will break down Stanford. We'll kind of look at, where they are. They're 1-4 right now. Kind of look at who they've played, how they've played, just some initial intro into their overall team stats. But we're going to talk kind of big picture because this is a rivalry that Stanford really dominated in the first 6-7 years of Brian Kelly's tenure. The Notre Dame has dominated in recent years. Hasn't even been a close game the last few times, and just kind of, just why? How'd they get here? And dive into some of those different things. And then, of course, on Wednesday, we'll dive into a statistical matchup of this game and just kind of look at how the two teams kind of stack up on paper, where Notre Dame has advantages, where Stanford might be able to present some advantages. I'll give you a little hint. Size at corner, at receiver is going to be a big part of the success that they have and should have. And we'll talk about how losing E.J. Smith has really hurt this offense because the run game looked a whole lot different when E.J. Smith was in the game. He's out. We'll dive into kind of what they're doing defensively. So we'll have a lot of stuff to discuss in tomorrow and Wednesday show. Of course, Thursday, we'll break down keys to the game. Friday, we'll have our game predictions. And then Saturday, it's going to be about 3:30 Eastern on campus. If you're going to be in town that day, you're going to want to find me We'll let you know the location as we get closer. It's going to be somewhere over near, on campus, kind of in the center of campus a little bit, maybe one of the far sides. I'll let you know, dropping some hints. But we're going to do a special live show from campus, and we'll start at about 3:30 on Saturday. So you're going to want to be there. We want all the Irish Breakdown people to be there. We're going to have some fun. It's going to be trust me, it's going to be worth it for you being there. You're definitely going to want to be there. So I want to thank Ryan. Did a great job today, as always. Did you see the play?
I did.
Is that not just the most awful way to lose a game? Like, what are you doing?
It's just, I just
not
don't
good.
even know. I just don't
it's
even know.
Not
man.
good. It's not good.
Yeah.
So we'll talk about all that tomorrow. So anyway, stay locked in, everybody. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, hit the notification bell, share this podcast. If you're listening via podcast platform, please give us a 5-star review. We would greatly appreciate that. Sign up for the message boards at boards.irishbreakdown.com. Check out the website at irishbreakdown.com. And of course, I did want to, for the people who are members, if you are a member of Irish Breakdown and you are using PayPal, by the end of the year, we will have PayPal completely removed from our platform. So you may want to try to transition into a different format at some point in time, because we are moving away from PayPal to where we are not going to be having a partnership with them in any way moving forward. So just giving you a heads up, if you are a member of the board, that is coming down the pike too. Want to make sure that people aren't caught off guard when that move happens. So for Ryan, that guy right there, I'm Brian. Have a great rest of your night, everybody, and we will talk to you again very, very soon.